welcome to Don't Be a Hero podcast with myself, Forrest, and this little dude, Matt.
Hello, it's me, it's Matt. Hello. Hi. Sorry, pretty excited.
We are absolutely pumped to be talking to you. We're absolutely stoked to be talking to you about Captain America, the First Avenger.
What is the Captain America theme song? But it's triumphant trumpets, isn't it?
He's the captain. He's American. He's Captain America. Fighting for the country.
America, funk yeah.
What a film.
What a film that is.
That deserves its own podcast.
It really does deserve its own podcast. It deserves its own review, actually. Anyway,
What?
yes. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to another podcast. We're going to get straight into it because, again, we're edging ever so closer to the end of Phase 1, which will then end on the first Avengers movie. But I'm excited. I'm so excited about this. This is honestly, it's been a delight to watch it again. It's been, for me, again, a long while since I've seen this one in particular. And there was one in particular I was quite excited to watch again. And it didn't disappoint, man. It didn't disappoint.
Oh, it definitely didn't. I feel like normally, or certainly for the first few podcasts that we've done, we've gone, there's been gripes. I wasn't going to instantly say that this perhaps might be the least gripes in a podcast so far.
Do you know what? It has everything. It has absolutely everything in terms of its origin story. It has all of the ingredients. I'm just like, I'm vibing through this.
We are very excited. I'm more excited than normal. I feel
We're
like
just dancing, aren't we, right now?
It's a brilliant film. We're that close to the Avengers. Just everything.
It's great. It's great. Forrest.
Yep.
You know what I'm about to say, bruv. I want to hear this synopsis. Let's go.
It's 1941, and the world is in the throes of war. Steve Rogers wants to do his part and join America's armed forces, but the military rejects him because of his small stature. Finally, Steve gets his chance when he is accepted into an experimental program that turns him into a super soldier called Captain America. Joining forces with Bucky Barnes and Peggy Carter, Captain America leads the fight against the Nazi-backed Hydra organization.
Ooh, that's a lot in there, isn't there?
They have packed a massive punch with that.
Do you know what? That was more than I was expecting in a synopsis. I thought it would be quite vague, quite, sticking it into the kind of mystery, but it introduces Bucky. Bucky's in there in the synopsis. That's interesting. And that's exciting. There's a lot to go. There's a lot to unpack in this film. In the synopsis, it was talking about Captain America. So Steve Rogers is a original physical form. Can we, before we start going into the movie in depth, I want us to sort of talk about that. What was that visual for you like? Now watching it back, now kind of things have kind of developed, I think, in terms of visual effects.
So, I didn't mind it. However, there is one scene where he is sat in the back of the car next to Peggy, and it is absolutely ludicrous.
It really upsets me a little bit. In terms of like, we were saying there's not many gripes in this movie, but this is really the one and only main gripe that I have, and it is just how that physically and visually is represented in terms of the weedy Steve Rogers. Yes, he's meant to look weak, and he's meant to look inferior, but like there are other ways of doing it. And I think the body double, that's what I was trying to say, the body double that they used just didn't fit with his head, with his face, and them imposing his face and head on top of that body. It was flipping through me, but still.
Surely there must have been enough money there to literally just allow him to go on a massive diet, which caused him to be thin, and then go on a massive, personal trainer 6 months to bulk up. Like, literally cannot understand how that was not possible during the process.
Well, let's be honest. So what we're doing here is we are already questioning Chris Evans' his commitment to the character. Because let's be honest, if this was Christian Bale,
oh yeah,
he would have lost £100 and gained it back on for the role, wouldn't he? He would have done that because he's done it in the past, right? He's done it in the past for other roles. But yeah, anyway, but let's get straight into it.
Before we do, I'm doing a little bit of scratch beneath the surface, Matt. Did you know this film was first in discussion to be made in the late 90s?
What?
And in the early 2000s, Marvel were in discussion to create this film in roughly, don't quote me on this, about 2005. So my feeling is that Marvel actually wanted this one to be the opening film, thus making the chronology of the Marvel Universe make more sense.
Whoa, that's huge. That's massive.
Yeah. So is it we could have seen Howard Stark before we, even met Mr. Tony Stark?
That's huge because, like, that if you kind of introduced the Captain American first, that would have changed the whole trajectory of how we probably perceive Iron Man as a character.
Exactly.
That's amazing. In terms of, I genuinely never knew that. I think it was probably a wise choice to not throw Captain America in first, because I think it's like the Superman thing. It's like if you're throwing in a major, like, kind of patriotic dude to be your leader, to be your protagonist, it's a difficult sell for some audiences. Okay, and I think the reason why they got it so right with Tony Stark is that you've got somebody who is egotistical, who is vulnerable, has vulnerability, has a bit of a checkered past, and then you see this humbling kind of journey with Tony Stark, and you wouldn't get that, and you got that with Thor obviously as well. You wouldn't get that, and you don't get that with Captain America because he's so honorable and he is a patriot, but how do we kick off?
We kick off in the Arctic, which, funnily enough, goes into first point that feels in relation to Thor, right? Where, do you remember when we went to the present day, then we went back, and then we were kind of like, by the time we came back to the present day, we were like, oh Christ, we'd forgotten that there was a flashback. Exactly the same with Captain America. So we start now, right? And by the time we return back to the present day, right at the end of the film, I've forgotten we even had this scene in the Arctic.
Yeah.
I completely forgot. I was like, hang on a minute. And then when Schmidt and when the fight is happening at the end between Schmidt and Captain America, I was like, Christ, oh my God, they're on the.
It's in that ship, yeah. Ship, plane. In the Arctic, they find the plane that Captain America had to nosedive to save New York. Spoilers, but obviously, hopefully, you would have watched this, and while you're listening to this, but so they discover it, and then obviously they go down, they sort of sieve their way through, and they get into kind of like the main hangar part of the ship, of the I was gonna say again the ship, the plane, and then they see. They kind of wipe it away. They kind of see through the frost, the frozen Captain America shield. Boom, right there, and right there and then, it clocks. And what I love about this, and I think in terms of like again now watching it all back, these guys know from literally sight of that shield who they have found and how big that is, and the fact that Captain America is a synonymous character and person of a heroic patriot that's revered and remembered and honored, in this world since the war, and they've discovered him, and then boom, we kind of go back in time. We go back to World War II.
Let's go to Nazi Germany.
Sounds good. Well, we don't go to Germany, do we? Because we actually go to Tonsberg, Norway, which... Ooh. Go on. Go on. You say it.
You tease me, Matt, mate. You got a little Easter egg. You ready to lap up at me? Come on.
What does that mean, Forrest? Tonsberg, Norway. Rings a bell, mate.
I don't know. You tell me.
I thought you knew, bro. I thought you knew.
It's somewhere in Norway? No.
Well, no. Tonsberg. And if we go back to Thor. Okay, so the previous episode we were talking about Thor. Now, in the cutback scene at the beginning of Thor, where they talk about the Vikings being taken over by the frost giants, that was taking place in Tonsberg, Norway.
There you go.
Which is also, if we wind ourselves forward through the Thor movies, is now the location of New Asgard.
Holy shit balls.
We find ourselves in a full circle moment here with the Tonsberg, and kind of understanding how important the location is, because obviously what happens here is that this is the location of these mythical frost giants that apparently arrived in the Viking Age, and that kind of mythology and the Viking mythology is kind of bred through that, and in there is being kept the Tesseract. Okay, now obviously the Tesseract was once in possession by the frost giants, so it makes sense that it's kind of been buried within this kind of area, and it's been kept there for centuries. And obviously what's happened is that Nazi Germany has discovered the location of the Tesseract, and Schmidt arrives.
Let's talk broadly. Hugo Weaving plays Schmidt. Red Skull. What are your thoughts, Matt?
Oh, brilliant. This is the thing, right? He is already, by this point of the movie, a very, very famous, well-respected actor, and also badass villain. I mean, he was Mr. Anderson in The Matrix, man. Like, you can't forget that kind of role. It's so good, and he's so good at playing bad people. So, like, even when this casting came out, even when knowing that he was going to be Red Skull, I was like, yeah, it's going to be great, and he's great. His villainy, the way that he commands the space, the way that he's very intelligent. But you are also scared of him, you know. It works really well. It was great.
Incredible pairing with Toby Jones as Dr. Zola as well. Toby Jones, I think, is an absolute, like, he's just special. He's incredible.
This is another thing, man. I think in my notes I have put the casting is absolutely loaded.
Oh,
in this film.
In fact, that I didn't even remember Natalie Dormer being in it. Natalie Dormer just shows up. I'm like, oh yeah, it's Natalie Dormer.
She literally has a few lines. So good. So good.
Yeah.
So Hugo Weaving, fantastic. And I think that first initial scene that he kind of comes in, it establishes the villain immediately, and you're like, okay. And what happens as well is that this villain has immediately got his hands on something that is reoccurring, that the audience already know about. We know what the Tesseract is. We know this. We've seen this before in Thor. So now we know the importance of what this is. And all of a sudden, it's gone straight into the hands of, and we're talking in the past sense, obviously, but like it's gone into hands of Nazi Germany. So that's sets up the movie quite nicely.
Beautiful setup. And it straight away when he refers to Tesseract, he is on about Odin's treasure room. This comes from Odin's treasure room, so we get that instant heart back to Thor. Really nice and early. I like that bringing in, and then we kind of I'm going to move on quite a lot, and with so Roger's enlisting. He's tiny. I've put he's tiny little Rogers.
Little Rogers. I've put little Cap. I've actually put little Cap is funny.
Yeah, little Cap is funny. I like that they tease the Shield, and I love how the teasing of the Shield has happened since Iron Man. I think it was Iron Man 2, actually, wasn't it? I don't think it was the first time.
It's when he's creating a new element, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he props up the shield.
Yes. So they've been teasing it for a while, and I love that they keep putting Rogers in scenarios where he uses different shields. So he uses a bin lid, he uses a car door, I think, at one point, and he's like, just show me the goddamn shield. Like, he's just waiting.
Yeah, it's good.
So,
and you know what it's going to look like. We all know what that shield looks like, but yeah, it's great. Great how it tease it.
Bucky Barnes then arrives on the scene. Sebastian Stan.
Oh,
Stan the man.
Yeah. What a dude. And this is what's interesting. I think his character obviously develops massively. In honesty, I think he's probably one of the most layered Marvel characters that we have in the MCU in terms of like the development of how he started. And so you see, where it all began. You see before the Winter Soldier, none of that is in there. So I think it was really interesting to see how he was playing just the mate, just the best friend, Steve Rogers, and that relationship, that bromance is immediately there in the scenes, which is great.
Yeah, great.
Also,
great.
Handsome bloke, very handsome, very handsome.
What a beautiful bloke. Then we end up at the basically what will become in years' time the Expo. We see Stark Industries. We meet Howard for the very first time.
We do, and I love the fact that we, as an audience, we are taking into the complex that Howard Stark created in past tense. So you see that kind of universal globe that's spinning, and you can see that from the pictures, you can see that from Iron Man. So there's lots of kind of like callbacks to that, which is awesome. And the fact that this expo is still kind of the same thing in terms of the way it was done in present day. So it's about showing new technological kit, showing, we've got hovering cars. So Howard Stark shows a hovering car that's in kind of testing, and it hovers for about 5 seconds and then drops down and sort of brakes. But what I love about that scene as well is that he has his cheerleaders, his women behind him. And I was like, that's a really nice callback to how Tony Stark did it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, great heartbacks there. And showing Howard and Tony and the development or not development of the Stark family in terms of keeping old traditions alive. And in that little scene is a cameo from a actress who has a place in my heart just because she's beautiful and an amazing actress. Is Jenna Coleman appears in the audience. Doctor Who Clara. Appears in the audience alongside. I think she appears alongside Bucky. Believe it or not.
Yeah, I think she's on a date with Bucky. Yeah, I think she's paired with Bucky that night, which is a good pairing. I think that's a great pairing. Great pairing indeed. But yeah, they are. So they're on this kind of double date, and Steve Rogers isn't really feeling it. He kind of backs himself out of it. He's gone, look, he kind of walks away and he sees himself in a reflection of a soldier. You get those kind of things where you have a hole in the head and you put your head through it and you kind of see that. So he's in that sort of reflection and he's kind of like off kilter. He's just a bit too short for his head to fit through this reflection. And he's like, wow, this is the epitome of how I'm feeling right now. All he wants to do is enlist, to do his bit. He wants to serve his country. Everybody else around him is. He's like, I have nothing other than this need to serve and protect, and he wants to do that. And his physicality, his health isn't allowing him to do that, which is a real shame. And I think actually it's an interesting start to a movie because you're like, well, in modern terms, you're like, well, there are other things to do.
Yeah, and I think.
But if you think back then, you can understand.
Yeah, and I think by that point you're probably thinking, having enough people around you say, you know what, mate, maybe this isn't for you, mate. Just come on, mate. Let's have a look at other jobs here. Steve. What about going into being a masseuse? There's a guy in a many years' time called Bruce, the masseuse, who's going to be there to take on your reins.
He's gonna need some serious pointers because he's got very, very thick thumbs.
He could deal with your nimble fingers and your delicate ways. But it's about this time in the film with Tiny Rogers, where I go, you almost feel like you're about to hear a comical kid's voice come out of him. I really loved it. Hello, Bucky. Hello. And it's just ludicrously small. And it seems to get smaller in every single scene as well.
Yeah, he does. It's really weird, actually. He does seem to get, in terms of his height, it's like Benjamin Button in a way. He's kind of... Anyway, he's feeling sorry for himself. And lo and behold, you then get the introduction of Abraham Irvine, which is played by
Stanley Tucci. I think you're after there.
Stanley Tucci, exactly.
Stanley
Again,
Tucci.
Another fantastic actor.
Unbelievably
good performances from Stanley Tucci, and there are some awesome performances from him. So he is the scientist that is on the super soldier program with Howard Stark, and he sees him and he goes, he is the perfect test subject to try this out.
And I think, you know what, actually, whilst we're talking, I think Stanley and Dr. Erskine, it's brilliant because the character brings a slight bit of light relief that we don't necessarily get a lot of light relief in this film. I think it's nowhere near as like deeply serious and in on itself as Thor is, but I do think there is an argument that, well, there is no, like, if you look at Marvel comedy, it is very, very short in this film. If there's any remotely like out there comedic, do you know what I mean? So I think it's brilliant. Stanley brought a little bit of light relief. He wasn't a comedy character, but I do think it was entertaining, his scenes.
Absolutely.
So Dr. Abraham Erskine we meet. He is in the little ward that Mr. Rogers is waiting in. He appears out of nowhere, introduces himself as being part of the strategic scientific research, says that he's German. I actually love that exchange because obviously you put yourself in the position of Steve Rogers. If someone's come in and they're German, in that time and in that place, people aren't going to look favourably to Germans at all.
No.
Right?
No.
So for him to come in and say he's German, there was a really wonderful bit of acting there. I think there was a little piece of dialogue about it as well, but it was just Stanley's acting to basically acknowledge to Steve, look, I might be German, but I'm not. I'm not an Nazi, mate.
Do you know what? I thought you meant Stan Lee, and I was like, Stanley was not Abraham Irvine. And then all of a sudden, I had thoughts and images of Stan Lee playing that role, and I thought, wow, what a cameo!
what an unrated actor! He
was amazing.
He just come in.
He's come back from gamma radiation, and now he is a scientist. That's the MCU.
Classic Stanley. No,
Great.
Stanley. So,
Stanley Tucci. Yes.
Tucci. Mr. Tucci comes in. Mr. Tucci.
I love that scene. Can I just piggyback on what you're saying? Absolutely. I think I really think the scene that they have together is quite understated in terms of its text and the way it's put together in the lines. It's a really lovely bit as well before they kind of go into the next scenes where they have a toast of alcohol, and then Abraham takes the drink away from Steve Rogers and goes, "Yeah," he goes, "You can't drink. You got the procedure tomorrow." And he's like, "Oh, we'll have a drink after the successful procedure." And he's like, "No. Why drink tomorrow? We'll drink now. I'll take a drink. I'll drink it now." And it's just great. It's just some brilliant act. I mean, I can't emulate it. I can't emulate the Stanley Tucci acting, but
for one you
I tried.
For one you sounded Russian, but yeah, we'll gloss over that.
Kevin, just strike that. Just strike that, mate. You didn't see that. Okay. I can do Russian. I can do it.
Okay. Yeah, and then we are introduced, my friend. It's time to talk. Peggy Carter. Let's bring in Hayley Atwell, my friend. So with Hayley, right? And I'm gonna go straight into this. Not Hayley, Peggy Carter is who I'm referring to, but I don't think it's the actual storyline, right? And what we have to believe in as. You're right. What's happening?
Sorry, mate. I gulped my whiskey.
Yep.
And it went up my nose a little bit.
Honestly, Matt.
I'm gonna go in again. I'm going in for a second tipple just because I want to. That's it. No other reason. Anyway, I dropped things.
Right.
Sorry. Carry on. Are you really introduced? I was the worst podcasting assistant.
That's actually.
I'm so sorry.
So Peggy Carter actually is very similar in this film, right? The story very similar to Jane in Thor, right? Except, and hang on, let me clarify that. Not the same.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Not the same story. Obviously, not the same story. Completely different story. Completely different characters. But we are expected to believe that in a short amount of time, she's got quite the soft spot for our good friend Steve Rogers. And then to the point where Steve Rogers is carrying her around in a locket, and there's basically love there, isn't there, by the end of the film, right? Similar-esque in the fact that Thor comes down to Earth, Jane, within almost minutes, falls in love with Thor, and then at the end we have that overly ludicrous romantic scene, right?
So interesting you say, because now you're saying it, and I'm thinking it back, and I'm like, yeah. It is similar. And then do you mean in terms of like the fact that Jane is a brilliant scientist and Carter is equally ridiculously intelligent, but also a really wicked, awesome, badass agent. And then all of a sudden that is undermined by this immediate romance to a protagonist.
Exactly. And it very much feels the only thing. And because it felt different in Captain America, because I was like, actually, you know what, I can buy in. The reason I could buy in is that Thor, we are expected to believe that the contents of that film, when they are when they're on Earth and it's skipped back to modern day, you are expected to believe that all of that action and all of that love is generated within a day. Or a couple of days.
Yeah.
Compared to Captain America, where there is a lot of days passing, weeks, potentially months passing, right? Mm-hmm. So I can, to an extent, understand Peggy's scenario much more than Jane's. However,
you're right.
I would say to Marvel, calm it down. We don't need a romance for every leading lady. Do you know what I mean?
It's really interesting. It's kind of like I understand. I think the way it was written in Captain America wasn't bad. It just didn't. And again, I don't know if this is because now we know Captain Carter more as a superhero, as a layered character, as a badass, other than having a romantic relationship with Captain America. It disjoints our perception of how we see Captain Carter now. Maybe, I don't know. But moving on, we do get this scene. We get this kind of enrollment into the army. We have the introduction of Tommy Lee Jones.
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that, mate.
God, Tommy flipping Lee Jones, bro.
I would have been an absolute, like, first time I saw this, I must have just been screaming Men in Black in my head. I would have been singing Men in Black, dancing to Men in Black, thinking about Men in Black. That Men in Black introduced me to Tommy Lee Jones. Men in Black introduced me to the cinema. Iconic film that will never leave my memory.
Mate, he is a brilliant actor, and he is actually so good in this film. And again, I'm like, it's against the Obadiah syndrome, mate. I want more. I want more from this character. He has a really good role in here. He's in a fair few scenes, and he's integral to the plot as well towards the end. But yet he's the general. He's the general of the camp, and he's enrolling his new battalion. And Steve Rogers is part of that. It's a wonderful scene in terms of Steve Rogers. There's a moment where he throws a dummy grenade down, and Steve Rogers immediately dives over it in protection of his soldiers and everybody around him, and everybody else around in his battalion runs away. And this was at the point where Abraham was trying to back up to Tommy Lee Jones's character that he is the right person for the super soldier serum. And there we see it. We see proof that he is a patriot. He will die for the cause. And there's a little moment as well, in particular in that bit that I saw, Agent Carter equally also goes to dive on top of that grenade just before Steve Rogers goes for it. So they equally were doing the same thing. And I think that kind of, blends quite nicely into what happens in the what if realm as well, with Captain Carter becoming Captain America. Kind of what happens next is the day of Captain America. Well, Steve Rogers becoming Captain America. So he goes in. We see Howard Stark. We see Abraham Irvine in the lab. Captain Carter's there, but also they have a bunch of watchers kind of over kind of like a few floors, and they can see through a screen. And you see an anonymous Richard Armitage, of whom I saw on the stage as well once in a production of The Crucible when he was John Proctor.
What a beautiful play. What a beautiful performance. This is where I've got to immediately come in with something hilarious that I put in my notes. So clearly I'd forgotten this scene quite dramatically, and I put right at the start of it, I put small Richard Armitage cameo.
And I've put weird casting. Right?
Yeah.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
I think he was bigger than that. Do you know what I mean? He's a really small villain. Basically, what happens is, obviously we'll go through the motions now in terms of the Captain Steve Rogers gets into this kind of like weird kind of like nuclear tube, it looks like almost, and they give him a shot of penicillin. Now, apparently, that is a key thing in terms of the super soldier program. Now, obviously, the first time they tried out the super soldier program was on Schmidt, and it went wrong, and he became Red Skull, okay, and had all these bad side effects. Now, what happened is that Steve Rogers was given penicillin before going and being injected with all these super soldier serums. And apparently the theory is that this penicillin is what made it successful, is that in terms of it kind of cocktailed together the right ingredients for him to not have adverse effects like Red Skull did, apparently.
But I would dispute that, because within the contents of this movie, Dr. Abrahams says that the Schmidt, it's not that it went wrong, it's that he had bad in him, which meant that the bad was doubled, or whatever the best word is, multiplied, which created him to be an even worse version of himself, right? And hence why he wanted someone like Rogers, who only had good in him, so that when these tests were forgone, that he came out the other side being ultra good, and someone to aspire to. That is mentioned in the film.
Is it?
Yeah. Abraham mentions it, and he says he had bad in him, so he became worse.
Fair enough. That's it. That's weird. That doesn't fit. That's quite a mythological kind of, that gives me Moon Knight vibes in terms of Ahmed. You don't know about Moon Knight yet. You need to watch Moon Knight as well. And so basically what happens is, obviously it all undergoes well. This is wonderful, iconic moment now in Men's Health, where the Steve Rogers is revealed to then become not the so much weedy Steve Rogers we know, to now the absolutely unbelievably ripped and buff Captain America, all oiled up. Apparently he got quite sweaty in there. Didn't know it was a sweaty kind of thing, but they oiled him up, and his pecs are so flipping big. It's ridiculous. But it's iconic. In terms of like Men's Health, I think it kind of drove a lot of kind of like, oh, you want to get the Captain America kind of physique, blah, 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 and it kind of maybe upped a level in terms of like how superheroes are physically depicted in Marvel.
It's kind of what happened to me and you, Matt. I mean, look at we've got, people call us Chris Evans when we're out and about.
Yep. Yep. I mean, it's not an easy life, but I had 2 mini rolls before we started this podcast, and that has done me well for my 8-pack. 8-pack.
Oh, absolutely love the mini roll, mate. So during the so after this, we find out that Richard Armitage is a dodgy one, working for Hydra, and Captain America uses car door as a shield. Every possible shield except the shield is what I'll put him on.
So in terms of like winding forward, Captain America, he's obviously taken out Richard Armitage. Richard Armitage takes a cyanide pill inside his mouth, and then he gets recruited to be in this kind of musical theatre show to recruit the army, and we have this whole montage of time moving forward where he's Captain America is becoming really popular. We have the Stan Lee cameo during that bit as well, where we see Stan Lee. Am I thinking right, or is it later?
It's later than that.
Later, isn't it? It's later, isn't it? It's later. Sorry. And so we have this kind of like moment where Captain America is now being, he's quite an exciting poster boy for the army. And then Peggy Carter becomes not like resentful, but just a bit standoffish.
You've honestly got to stop with the whiskey. Yes, he becomes standoffish. Yeah, that's what she becomes.
It just, so when Captain America becomes kind of quite famous or quite like a local hero, there's a moment, and it's really short. I think it might just be outside the theater. There's a woman that says hi to Captain America. Now it's apparently, I don't know if it's the actress's name or the character's name. It says Laura Haddock. Now this is something that I found in terms of an Easter egg, a theory as well, is that is potentially that woman that says hi to Captain America and is quite flirty to Captain America is Star-Lord's grandmother.
What on earth?
I don't know whether that's true or not, or whether it's, to listeners, if you have heard that theory, email in and confirm that with me. Or is that just me hearing stuff through watching too many Easter egg videos?
Even if that's correct, what on earth does that add to anything? Star-Lord's grandmother. I'm like...
It's weird, right?
That is a very bizarre
Anyway, he gets famous, right? He gets famous. But like then this is a moment where Tommy Lee Jones is there and Captain America's like, look, I can't really take this anymore. I feel like Captain America's really good at drawings, apparently. He's a really good artist. And he drew a little monkey on a bike. And he went, this is me. I'm the monkey talking about America, and I'm on the bike doing everything you're telling me to do. I've come here. You've given me the super soldier serum. I'm here to fight. Give me. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. So there's this rescue mission. And then he then hears that there's a prisoner of war camp, and he hears Bucky's battalion that are currently imprisoned by Hydra. And then here we go. Starts the rescue mission of saving Bucky and comrades as well.
And at this point, we meet Dugan. Good old Dugan, who's leading Le Resistance. And Captain America goes in. We see so Stephen Rogers finds our good old friend Bucky. Bucky's alive, and then Steve Rogers takes an almighty jump, a leap of faith to cross.
Oh, it's amazing.
To his friend Bucky. Is he dead? Is he dead? Of course he's not dead. He arrives seconds later. Literally seconds later. I didn't even try to tease that for about 10 minutes.
No, it was an interesting choice. I don't know why they did that, but yeah.
He could have literally just met Bucky, and they could have done the same scene straight after.
Literally.
Yeah, don't really know. But yeah, he emerges. Captain America and all of the prisoners arrive behind him to rapturous applause by the army.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Everyone's going fucking insane.
Bloody hero, mate.
Bloody hero. At which point we then cross. Now, we would need to talk about this. This is where Stan Lee's cameo comes in. At this point, right? What is going on? So there we not hop back to America. We're not in America, are we? At this point, no, can't be in America. It's full of snow. No. And we hop back to America to some weird thing that he should have showed up at, and Stan Lee's in the audience.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know if it was just thrown together quite quickly. Maybe for Stanley, like Stan's on set today. Oh crap, we need to get him in a cameo. I'll just get him to say this line, get into the scene. Just get him in there. So let's go to the train bit. So basically, they once they've got their prisoner of wars back home, they then go to the final main mission of taking down Schmidt, and they try and intercept a cargo that has all the equipment, all the weapons, all the stuff that Schmidt needs to move his plans and schemes further. Basically what happens is a pretty good combat scene. There's a pretty good sequence in terms of like train fighting sequences go. Obviously, we've had a fair few in superhero movies. There is then all of a sudden a moment where Bucky kind of, sacrifices himself in protection of Captain America, and it kind of goes sideways and descends from this crevice into the ground. It's kind of the last of we see of Bucky, and I actually have memories. I genuinely do have memories of watching that for the first time. I think I saw this movie in a Cineworld, I think, but it was I genuinely thought he was dead at that point.
Yeah.
And I think the way that they obviously moved the film forward is that you do generally nobody really knew about the Winter Soldier program, obviously back in 2011. So that was right there and then. I was like, oh, okay, he's done, he's dead. So he does. We think he's dead. Bucky's died, and then all of a sudden we then go to a kind of we see Thingy get captured. Toby Jones gets captured, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Within that kind of sequence, and then we have this kind of like interrogation scene with Tommy Lee Jones and Toby Jones, and I think that's a pairing made in heaven, acting heaven.
Beautiful.
They're actually great.
Absolutely
Then
beautiful.
they genuinely do have a rip roaring scene in there where Tommy Lee Jones comes in with a wonderful, wonderful steak. Now I'm no meat eater,
Oh,
but that steak looked flipping amazing.
absolutely incredible. And it's just the way he eats it as well.
Ah,
Honestly, I'd watch that. I'd watch that for 2 hours, Matt.
so we kind of get into a moment where we go back to London, and there's a pub that's been blitzed, that's been taken out. And Captain America that is there mourning and trying, and he's having a drink, isn't he? You're looking at me like I've moved way too far forward.
He's having a drink.
No,
He's having a drink. Is he having a drink?
he's having a drink, and he then reveals to Peggy that he can't get drunk. He said one of the
I'll be sure. I think because I'm pretty sure it goes from train to car catches plane, and then he ends up on the plane, and then we're at the end game of the film. Is the drink not a long?
no, because he mourns. He's talking about the loss of Bucky with Peggy, and then he goes back to then finish the job.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
I think he does. And then they go and take him out, and that's when they try and plot and go, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? We can't just knock on the front door. And he goes, that's exactly what we're going to do.
Sure.
And then we cut straight to the action, and he's on his motorbike, and then you see all the Hydra agents catching him, and it's kind of like this weird, because they're going through the forest, and it's just like weird Return of the Jedi kind of like feel to it, actually. And yeah, we get to the end game. We get to the kind of big battle with Schmidt and Captain America. Now, in terms of final sequences what are your thoughts on that?
Amazing. Absolutely fabulous final sequence. I think the car catching up to a plane was quite a sight to behold. I absolutely loved the kind of revelation or the realization once Captain America goes on the plane and he sees all the bombs headed, with their little private drivers, and then we have that little scene. Then we go into the Schmidt and Captain America, the Tesseract falling down out of the plane. We're like, where the hell does that end up? New York? What? Ready for what?
Right.
Ready for what?
Ready for what? Oh my god!
Ready for
Can we go for the
The
Avengers?
Avengers.
But yeah, I think it's a really good fight sequence as well. I really enjoy it. I think the fact that as it kind of like as they're in flight and it kind of descends down, and then we have this kind of like gravity kind of situation that's happening, and basically what happens in terms of its ending is that Schmidt gets hold of the Tesseract as it becomes unhinged, and he kind of like can't control it, and the Tesseract kind of absorbs him and obviously then takes him away and teleports him to another space in time, and we will see him again later down the line with some other movies.
I love that seeing of space for a few seconds. Just, I didn't even think of like Thor, even though we have been in space with Thor. I thought immediately of Thanos.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think because I attached that to Red Skull and, the re-emergence of Red Skull, and I think, oh my God, I can't, even at this point when I know in the scheme of things, we're way off seeing Thanos. But,
big time.
Can I wait for him
again,
to arrive on the scene? Absolutely fucking not.
Maybe could afford some sort of maybe what if episode around Red Skull. I'm just saying, K-Dog, you listening? Just a little tidbit there for you, my little friend. Anyway, I got a gripe in this final sequence though, as Captain America takes hold of the pilot chair and tries to get control of this plane before it heads to New York and cause any destruction. Now, technology in this world is so far more advanced than it ever was in our time in the 1940s. Okay, ridiculous amounts of power that Howard Stark and other technological advances they've made. Why on earth then does their maps on their screens look so flipping dated? Why aren't they colored? Why aren't they animated? Why they're weird, you know, the Dad's Army kind of like
Yeah.
sequence thing. Do you know what I mean? I just go back and watch it if you can. It's just I kind of go, that's a bit weird. Tiny little observation there, but it's a bit weird.
Yeah, I agree. I suppose the technology they did have still had to be in the realms of possibility within that period. For instance, if it did have colour and it was a bit jazzy, then we'll be a million miles away from having screens, which wouldn't be a million miles away from having TVs. In that case, Howard could have bought TVs and could have bought completely brand new, like different technology. He was at the peak of technology of his time.
Yeah,
So
big time.
But I know where you're coming from, and maybe it could have been a bit more glitz and glamour. But then again, I quite like that if we go back to the transformation scene for Mr. Rogers, Steve Rogers. I like the transformation scene where all of the dials are quite old school, and it's the same in that scene. And if you know that is all created by Stark Industries, so I think actually, yeah, I don't know if it's great for me.
Fair enough. I think this scene as well, as we kind of get to Captain America realizing that he needs to nosedive this plane to save many other lives. He contacts Peggy Carter. Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers have these amazing lines. I think this scene is so good. He knows that he needs to sacrifice himself, and he does it. And they talk about, look, we never followed up on that rain check, and they set a date for next Saturday. Take me dancing. What if I step on your toes? And then all of a sudden, boom, Steve Rogers' voice cuts out, and Peggy Carter knows what's happened. And we all think at that point Captain America has died, and that is it. That's the end of Cap. And I just thought, honestly, it was quite a well written scene, and just a lovely little moment for Peggy as well in terms of her character development. And I think beyond it as well, what I found quite interesting in terms of, obviously they have to recover the Tesseract. So Howard Stark finds the Tesseract in an excursion to find not only the Tesseract, but also Captain America. The captain of that ship goes to Howard Stark. Shall we keep looking? He goes, check another grid. Howard Stark never stopped looking for Captain America. And I think that shares a little bit of an insight of how maybe Howard Stark idolized Captain America a little bit, maybe had this kinship with Captain America in a way. And Tony Stark, maybe when he came along on the scene later down the line, maybe felt the effects of Captain America. And Howard Stark maybe felt like he had his main achievement was the Super Soldiers program, and Captain America was his biggest ever success. And maybe Tony Stark resents him for that. But anyway, we move kind of then straight into the future. And this is kind of like a mid-credit sequence, isn't it, in a way? It kind of like, it's the end of the movie, but it kind of goes straight into kind of present day.
And it feels, so it all goes a bit Truman Show, doesn't it? So we hear radio that it would have been from the 1940s, a game that was from the 1940s, so much so that Steve Rogers was there at the game, which is why he knows that someone's a little bit amiss. And then he kind of realises that he's in this fake room in the middle of he doesn't know he's in the middle of New York, but he knows it's in a fake room, and then he punches his way out of the room, and he's in New York, present day, and it goes straight into the city. We see the brand new lights and glitz and glamour, but also we see Nick Fury.
Here he is again. Good old Nick turning up. Yeah. He goes, "You've been asleep, Cap." Exactly like that. Delivered exactly like that.
That old bastard. That old wily bastard, Nick Fury.
Oh, your best. Hey there, Captain America, your best.
Oh, is this Quaverman or Captain America or even Laser Search? Nick fucking Fury. Oh, what a man.
Yes.
It is an
So
almighty exchange between himself and
almighty exchange, absolutely. But like, yeah, then Nick Fury says you've been asleep, Cap, and then he kind of. I think Captain America takes it very well. The fact that he's been asleep for what 40, 50 plus years, 70 years, 70 years, and he's like, oh, okay, oh, have I? For that? Oh, okay. Oh, I was meant to have a dance. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to your head, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, if that was Quaverman, how would Quaverman react to being frozen for 70 years?
I tell you what, he's got about. I've been asleep for how many fucking? So, what? No, what? 70? What? And it freaks
What
out.
are you eating?
Quite just a very loud bag, very loud bag of quavers. Yeah, have you ever eaten a bag of quavers, mate? Honestly,
I have, mate, and I don't make that noise.
Oh, you've not had the right bag of fucking quavers then, mate. I'll tell you that. You get yourself a decent bag of quavers, you'll be all the way home.
Oh. Anyway, let's get to the end credits, my friend. What happens in the end credits?
Nothing.
Can you remember?
Nothing happens in the end credits.
You missed the end credits then?
No, I didn't. Right.
Brother.
We need to talk. No end credit scene. What this film has is a trailer for Avengers.
Well, you get, and this is the thing. Now, if I remember back in the day when I watched this, because there was contention to this, because there really wasn't really much of an end credits when it came out in the cinema. Now, this wasn't added on until I think either post-cinema DVD situation. But they had a little scene where and they released this online, where Captain America was punching that boxing bag, and he punches it through, and then there's a little scene with Nick Fury and him. But then what happens is that now they've been able to tie it in. They've put this online little snippet just behind the Avengers trailer. So they did that, and then they did the Avengers trailer, and that was the end credit sequence, Captain America: The First Avenger.
But they're not that much in way of dialogue for Nick Fury and Captain America.
Oh no, it's kind of pointless. It doesn't really do anything. I don't know whether that was deliberately put together so it can be an online teaser. I don't know.
I saw that, and then I saw it go straight into the Avengers trailer. And so much time has passed, I just assumed they were, the same thing. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. We've just got... But yeah, it was...
But we get this. We get the Avengers trailer, and everything's been, in every character that's in the Avengers has now been introduced. So this movie now can happen.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, I'd have preferred no trailer for the Avengers, mate. I'd have preferred no trailer. It doesn't need a trailer. It's bringing everyone together, mate. Out of all of the films you could have provided a trailer for, this is the last one I'd expect to see a trailer. Give me one for Iron Man, whet my appetite for Marvel films. Give me one for Thor, whet my appetite for a little bit of a different Marvel film. Don't put a trailer for Avengers, mate. By that point, I'm 100% in.
Forrest, calm down.
No. Just absolute pile of shit, mate. Can't be asked. Kevin, you fucked up, mate. Don't put the trailer at the end of... And plus, anyway, regardless of whether I want a trailer or not, don't put it as an end credit scene and then lie to me and go, oh yeah, we've stuck such a good end credit scene, it's a trailer for another movie. No, that honest. Do you know what? Actually, that's annoyed me, Matt. Quite frankly, you've annoyed me there, mate. Oh. That is a gripe that I didn't even realise I had in this film. Disgusting way to finish the film. Don't tease. Do not give me a trailer and tell me that's an end credit scene. That offers no snippet for anything. No.
This is wow. What a way to end the podcast. So Forrest, let's try something new, mate. Let's try something new.
Ooh.
How many quavers would you give this film?
I'll tell you what. This film gets a whole bag of quavers, mate. This is
whole bag.
This is a fun fest. I was going to say start and finish of the main film. We're forgetting the end credits scene. But the whole film is an absolute treat from start. Like it's just got everything, mate. It's got backstory. It's got setup, a reasonable amount of setup, not too much, not lacking in it. It's got an incredible superhero in Captain America. It's got an incredible cast, a great ensemble, some fantastic cameos. A brilliant script, really good script, and incredible story development.
I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 quavers. That's for sure.
8 out of 10 quavers.
A solid 8 out of 10 quavers. And it is that good. And I totally 100% concur with your comments there, my friend. Can you believe we are at the final movie of Phase 1? Avengers.
Oh my God.
Assemble is next, and we're going to celebrate Phase 1, and we're going to go into Phase 2 with new energy, with excitement, curiosity. I cannot wait.
I cannot wait. An alcohol problem by Phase 2. Too much whiskey consumed, and we might be able to actually edit at a successful rate by Phase 2. I'm looking forward to hearing the podcast for Phase 2. Might jazz it up. Might have a different theme tune.
Might jam it up. Might have a different theme tune. I might have a different mic.
Oh,
I think I might invest in the mic, mate.
We're gonna definitely get you an upgraded mic. Get you an upgraded mic, and quite frankly, drop us an email because we want to do an email specific podcast. So one of the things we're going to do in Phase 2 is shake it up a bit. We're going to start with, there's some DC films that we've got to cover. Certain Man of Steel, if I may. We're going to refer to. We want to do, like I say, some special email episodes. We're going to add, which is, each phase to each phase, we're going to start adding a bit more, fleshing it all out a bit. So do send us an email. Don't be a hero. podcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts thus far. Let us know your thoughts about future films as well, because where this podcast is headed. So if you've got some thoughts about Endgame already, I can send them in because we'll refer to them, mate. We will go to them on the podcast.
Yeah, we will.
It will help strengthen my argument because, let's be honest, most of the arguments thus far I've won. Purely on the basis that I've had one drink and Matt's had 10.
Forrest, mate, this has been an absolute joy. I cannot wait for the next one. Here we go, Avengers. I can't wait to watch it. I don't think, again, I've said this, I feel like I've said this a few times now, but like I genuinely haven't seen the Avengers in many, many years.
I can't wait. I'm going to get a big, badass bag of popcorn to enjoy whilst I watch it, mate.
Let's go. All right. Thank you so much for listening to Don't Be a Hero podcast. We will see you again for the finale of Phase 1.
See you soon.